finished reading one day. From a critical standpoint, I do believe that the book got so much better halfway through. The second half of the book flew by compared to the first, and I didn't find myself as preoccupied with the head hopping as much. I also really enjoyed the arcs of each of the characters. One of the lead characters does go through a significantly bigger character arc than the other lead character, and if you know anything about the story, then you can take a little bit of a guess about who that is. I really did enjoy it. I thought it really came into its own around the second half of the book, and I really enjoyed the characters especially, because they felt human. They felt like I might actually know these people in real life. My main criticism, and it's not really something that I can quantify as such, is more that the book didn't really seem to know who it was focusing on at any given point up until the very end. And by that, I mean that this is a book that is clearly about two people. There are dueling perspectives. They often split even between scenes. You get to know Emma and Dex both. But the book always felt like it was actually more trying to focus on one of the characters, but I couldn't figure out which one. And this was when there was only about a quarter of the book left, and I realized that the book had always actually been about Dexter. Because by that point, Emma's entire character arc had kind of settled. She was independent, she was who she was, and she wasn't really changing from that point. And this is an incredibly character-focused story. We are actively seeing how these two characters develop in maturity and in their general lives over 20 years. And so narratively, once Emma's arc is finished, and only Dexter remains as still this slightly childish tendencies within him, there is only one thing left for her character to do. But that does not mean that it didn't come as a massive surprise to me when it happened, because after Emma's bike malfunction, that dragged Dexter to the lowest point in his life. He regressed back into the worst parts of all of his old habits, and it amalgamated into this horrible mess. And it wasn't cool like it was in his 20s, and it wasn't sexy, and he was just grieving and so heartbroken. And Dexter's character for the whole story had kind of been teetering on the edge of self-destruction, and it was Emma who anchored him to stability, because Emma herself was so stable and so constant. And so for Dexter, the only way his character arc could be complete was for him to lose his anchor, and then to go completely self-destructive, and then to have to pull himself out of it and stabilize himself. And I could harp on for ages about how a woman's suffering was used to further a man's character arc, but I'm not going to, because I did appreciate that Emma was a true character and had her own heart and her own soul within the story. And you know what? Dexter and Ian are right. It wasn't fair that she died. She did not deserve to die. She really was the best of all of them. And she had worked so hard to get to where she is and to get the life she wanted. And she was so close to finally getting everything. 4 out of 5 stars. I do think it is a very well written book. I do think it gets significantly better after the first half. But particularly as a character study of two people who feel incredibly human, I think it is very clever. Particularly with Dexter and his character arc, which is a lot more vivid and a lot more almost dramatic, but in a way that still feels believable. I'm just nervous to watch the show now, because I watched the first 3 episodes, but now I know how it ends. Go watch One Day on Netflix, and if you see me crying in my story, no you don't.